How's it going, guys, and welcome to another Java video. So in this video we're going to be covering the implementation of a linked list. So here we are asked to check if the value 5 is contained inside of a linked list. So we're assuming that we have to implement the linked list, and we're not going to just import the package and use those functions. So we're going to manually create the node class and the linked list class, and then we're going to insert it manually. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I have the main class. We're going to create another file called node.java, and in here we're going to define our node. So we're going to create the class name, so public class node, and all our code is going to go in here. Node is going to contain two values, so we're going to have the data value and then node next. And let's go ahead and make a constructor, which will make our lives a bit easier, so we can pass in the values. So we're going to name it public class node. Public node, and it's going to take int data as its parameters, and it's just going to set the data equal to whatever data value we set to. So we're done with the node. Let's go ahead and make a linked list class right now. So the reason why we do this is because when we change the values, our head pointer is going to point to a different head each time. So, how will the rest of the linked list know where our head is? Well, we're going to define it at the very top here after we define the public class linked list. So we're going to give it the name node head. So inside of our public class linked list, we want to add or append or insert nodes to our linked list. So let's say we want to add a node. What we're going to do is public void insert, and here it's going to take int data as a parameter, so it adds onto that. So when we're doing this, we have to have a conditional statement. So we have to say, okay, so if the linked list is completely empty, then we create the head node. So let's write that out. So if head is equal to null, then what we're going to do is just create the head node, and then we return the value. Now, what if there are already nodes inside of the linked list? What do we do then? So we're going to have an else statement. So this is assuming that there's at least one node inside of the linked list. So what we can do is we can set the current value equal to the node. So we're going to have a temporary variable of the node class, and we're just going to create that and just call it, let's say for example, current is equal to the head. So we're going to set head is equal to current. Now, so we're going to traverse through the linked list, and traverse just means travel through the linked list, and we do that until we reach the very end of the linked list. And once we end up at the very end of the linked list, it's just whatever node we're on is pointing to null, so it's not pointing to anything. So we're going to have a while loop here, and it says while current dot next. So while whatever node you're on, the next node, as long as that's not null, you haven't reached the end of the list. So what you're going to do is you're going to set your current node equal to the current dot next. So the current node is going to point to the current dot next. And once it does this, once it reaches the very end of the linked list, we're just going to create that node. So current dot next is now equal to new node data. So this is how we can insert nodes into our linked list. Now, what if we want to show the nodes? If we have just this right here, we're not showing anything. We're going to have a linked list that's not seen by anyone. So what we're going to do is create a public void show. So we're not going to pass in anything because we don't have to. We're just showing the linked list. In here, we passed in data because we're inserting a new value of whatever data the user specifies. So in our public void show, we want to create a node and then show every single node that's available. So here we're going to have node current is equal to the head node. And then, just like before, we're going to traverse through as long as the current.next does not equal to null. So while current.next is not null, so like I said before, as long as there is some node or some value after that specific node, we're just going to print out that value. So we're going to do system.out.println, and then we take the current value and then we just print out the data. And now we have to set that value equal to the next. So we have to set that node equal to the next one, so it points to it. If we don't do that, the node doesn't point to anything. So it's not going to print out the rest. So what we're going to do is we're going to set current is equal to current.next. So now, when we finish this while loop, that value that we have, we're going to go through this while loop. And once we reach the very end, it sees that, okay, current.next is in fact null. So it doesn't execute any of this, and it just opts out of the while loop. So what happens? That value never gets printed. If we have this right here, and we try to insert some values, let's say, for example, we try to insert 1, 2, 3. The linked list, once we show it, will only print out 1, 2. Why? Because this value right here never gets printed. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So in here, we're going to create the linked list object, and we're going to add the values. So we're going to have linked list, let's call it list, is equal to new linked list. And in here, we're going to insert the value 1, and let's just copy this over. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to show the linked list. So let's go ahead and run this. So as you can see, it only prints out 1, 2. Where's the value 3? Well, we never printed it because this while loop is no longer applicable, and it just goes out. So what we have to do is, outside of the while loop, we're going to do system.out.println the current.data. And so all this will do is just print out exactly what we wanted to. So now it has 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So the question here says, check if the value 5 is contained inside of the linked list. So what we're going to do is, so instead of writing this out every time we find a value, we're going to get rid of, we're just going to comment this out, and we're going to have a boolean called switch, which is equal to, if I use the word switch, that's a reserved keyword, so I just have to switch like that, and this is equal to false. Now, we're going to have a conditional statement inside of this, so if current.data is that, then all we're going to do is switch is equal to true. And if that is, switch is equal to true. Now, as long as switch, if Now we have a 5 in here, so we're gonna print this and we're gonna run this and see what happens. Okay, so the value 5 was found. Now if we get rid of this 5, what happens? The value 5 was not found. So I really hope this video helped. I know it was a bit confusing, but if you did not understand what's going on here, I highly recommend you watch my linked list video, which will cover linked lists and how to implement a linked list. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Take care.